Testing. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. We've got the military action. This was expected. I thought it was going to happen last week, but the military strikes, I guess they're calling them U.S. Israel joint strikes against Iran, Iran retaliation, potentially against U.S. military bases. The damage, the extent of it is very likely extremely limited against the U.S. They're going for the top Iranian regime. They want a regime change, or they want heavy pressure on the regime. They want a severely weakened Iranian regime. That's what I would surmise. And so it's kind of a fog of war moment. We'll see what arises. We'll see the exact response from Iran. You're going to get the immediate overreactions. People say it's World War III. Anytime there's Middle Eastern action, people are going to say it's World War III. That's just par for the course. There's a lot of fear-mongering. But it's not World War III or anything like that. We'll see how far Trump wants to take it in terms of pushing for... I mean, I think it's precision strikes against the top. I think they already killed 2 military officials. I can't even be drafted. I'm 26. Can't even be drafted. They're not. Trump knows boots on the ground is a death sentence. It's not going to happen. It's all a massive overreaction. People say boots on the ground. It's World War IV. We might be on World War X at this point. I think it's World War Z. I think we're on World War Z. How many U.S. members killed? I don't think there's any U.S. casualties. Nobody's getting drafted, dude. It's not gonna happen. It's a joke. The new stadium series. I don't think I've done a new stadium series. Do you think it will be another Ukraine situation? No. No, there's how can it be a Ukraine situation? Where's the neighboring country military? It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even. Ukraine was an invasion by a neighboring country, so obviously it's not going to be a Ukraine situation. This is the midterms are in 7-8 months. They're not going to do that. This is going to be some type of operation that's going to severely weaken the Iranian regime. Operation Epic Fury, awesome name. Yeah, I saw that. Well, didn't they name the last one like Midnight Hammer or something? I mean, they come up with these names. I think it's meant to try and propagandize the strikes. Yeah, but I don't have a I don't really have a series surrounding it. I mean, I make videos on new stadiums that are upcoming. It's not really a series though. A series would be like very similar videos back to back to back to back to back. I mean, I guess I've done that, but not recently is what I'm saying. How long do you think it will take to end the war? Well, I mean, it's not going to drag on too long because Trump knows that it's not a great policy in terms of moderate support when it comes to the midterm. So I don't think it'll last very long at all. I mean, of course, they do it on Saturday morning because of the stock market. I thought it was going to be last week. These things tend to get postponed. They get changed. So I think it was supposed to be last week, but it changed to this week. I said it was going to be on the weekend because that's kind of when they do these, because the markets are at least closed so they can absorb some of the hit. But I don't think it's going to be a long war. And again, do you call it a war? I mean, where's the U.S. casualties? Where's the U.S. It's one of those. It gets propagandized. They just want to say, well, Trump is obsessed with Trump is a hypocrite because of these Middle Eastern conflicts. I mean, let's see what actually happens. You know, they said the exact same thing back in June. Tallest build. I don't think the Burj Khalifa was hit. I saw it was you say it says there was a drone that struck near it, but I don't think it got hit. But that is crazy though to see that. I mean, the UAE apparently shot down a bunch of the Iranian drones. I don't know if they're targeting a military base. I'm guessing that's what it is, a U.S. military base. And Bill Clinton, yeah, I saw the Bill Clinton stuff yesterday, and they're trying to do damage control basically. So they're making it seem like, well, we're being transparent. I mean, that's obviously somebody told Bill and Hillary it would be best to go in and do this, and because if you don't do it, it makes you look more guilty. So they try and control the narrative. It's narrative control. Them doing being deposed, it's all narrative control. Thoughts on Trump's speech? Love that he's telling the Iranian people that people, your government is yours. Take it. You may not have another chance. Yeah, I mean, there were some concerning moments with it in terms of it seemed like he was more willing to go all out versus the previous speech he's had last year on it. In terms of the aggressiveness, seemed like a bit more aggressive speech to me earlier. They said that he was going to give a formal address. I don't know if that was the address, but then people said, well, there's going to be another formal address to the nation, and then it got canceled. That was supposed to be later today. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I heard. But that was a speech or a pre-recorded thing that he gave, I think, earlier this morning. They toppled the Maduro regime in 3 hours. Why do they take their time with Sandland region? Well, because it's a completely different part of the world, and Iran is surrounded by other countries. I mean, you don't have direct access to the country like they did with Venezuela. I mean, they could hit it directly off of the Atlantic, Venezuela. So geographically, it's a completely different area. Also, Iran's topography is a lot different than Venezuela, but just in terms of water access to the country, it's insanely different. It's also significantly further away than from the United States. And with Venezuela, I'm not saying it was a fluke, but I think they definitely had significant espionage operations to where they were able to do what they were able to do because they had a lot of people on the inside. I don't know if they necessarily have that with Iran. You think leftists are going to do another big protests in the U.S.? They're going to protest anything that Trump does. I mean, this is obviously not going to be a popular thing because um, you can kind of dress it up, but I mean, it is for Israel. You can say, well, it's important. Iran is partners with China and Russia. Iran ships 90% of their oil to China, I should say. I don't know, man. I mean, it's not a great look. The hope is that, it's another one of those things to where these people go crazy and say, well, the entire government is controlled by Israel, and then it's like a 2-day event. That you really can't effectively, fearmonger this like cuckery to Israel if it lasts like 2 days and there's no US casualties. It's just not it doesn't really have an impact. But if it's a prolonged thing, it becomes a serious problem. Because then, I mean, how do you really deny that? They can fearmonger it right at the start during the fog of war because nobody knows how long this is going to last. But if it's another thing to where it's just the boy who cried wolf and they cry about World War III that doesn't happen again, there's really only so much you can say. There has to actually be something there of substance. Now, I guess this strike is something of substance and whatever, but again, if it ends really quickly, there's no U.S. casualties. I mean, there's just not a lot to fearmonger there, just like last year. What did we even hit? There's so little info. Well, I think this is what I saw in the New York Times and other places. They precision striked two of their top military generals, Iran's. They hit the Ayatollah's main complexes. I don't know if they were trying to. I mean, I'm guessing they were trying to kill him. Apparently, he's still alive. I think the strikes were mainly to precisely target the top Iranian generals to significantly weaken their regime. And preferably, they're trying to obviously kill them, and their regime goes into disarray, and it allows the protesters to possibly take over. It's something like that. And then they also said, well, maybe they'll also hit nuclear sites. Now, I don't know if that's just them saving face and saying, well, because they're still developing a nuclear bomb, which is what they had said when the negotiations broke off. You know, Trump gave them some type of 10-day window, and I think that just expired. So maybe it's something like that. I don't know exactly, though. But I think they were targeting specific personnel with these strikes. I don't think it was compounds. If it was compounds, I'm guessing it would be easier to probably see where the strikes happened. I mean, they targeted the compounds in terms of the Ayatollah, but in terms of like a nuclear site or something like that, I don't think they're targeting those right now. I think they will be, though. They said this might be a multi-week operation. Your opinion on what would cause World War III? Well, it would have to be two major powers. It would have to be two major powers reaching the point of no return. Because two major powers can interact and you can do a proxy situation, but it would be like I mean, I don't know if I would say China versus Taiwan becomes World War III. I think it could be salvageable. That could be a regional war. But it would be like a major military agreement between Russia, China, North Korea, and then offensive action of those countries all together at once. That would do it. I don't think any of this sandbox shit causes World War III. I just don't see it. The World War III stuff with this type is fear-mongering. I agree. I think if it's prolonged, it's really bad. But you know, look at Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, it's in terms of we were way more aggressive for those, and there was no World War III. Is an invasion of Iran even possible at this point? No, they're not going to invade Iran. That would be the stupidest thing. You can't do anything like that. The country's too big. Look at the topography of the country as well. There's so many mountains, and it's a large country. It's got a lot of people. There's not going to be a realistic invasion. It would be horrible. It's just not feasible, and it's not anywhere close to being worth it. That's why you just do these bombing runs or whatever, and nothing. There's zero U.S. harm in terms of casualties. There's not zero risk. I mean, there's always going to be cascade and blowback, but you know, this is what Trump does when it comes to foreign policy. It's bombing countries. There's no direct, actual, on the ground involvement. Iran's leader, Khamenei. Yeah, there's obviously not going to be an invasion. They're trying to cripple their regime through these precision airstrikes, basically. Do you think cyber attacks from Iran are likely? I don't think there's much that they can do to the U.S. domestically at all. I'd be surprised. You know, I heard reports they were already trying to tone down, you know, escalation with the United States. Not enough that's going to happen at this point, but there was never going to be a nuclear deal. They were talking like there was going to be a nuclear deal the last 7 or 8 days I saw. There was never going to be a nuclear deal. That's the most ridiculous thing. I mean, obviously, Trump and Israel, they want to weaken Iran, and they need an excuse to do it, so they have these talks. And they say, well, Iran won't completely commit to zero enrichment, but I mean, who even knows what to make of Iran's nuclear program at this point? Is it even active? They say, oh, it's barely active. What does that even... I don't even know what that means. It's barely active, okay? So I don't know, man. They obviously wanted to weaken Iran. I don't know. They've been trying to hit I don't Dubai, which is strange. I don't know if there's U.S. equipment there. It's very odd. But some of their drones are, I guess, attacking Dubai and some of the neighboring Gulf countries. Gulf states might as well join if they're getting hit too. Apparently, they are getting hit by Iran. But the question is, well, they're targeting the military bases within the Gulf states. The Nothing Ever Happens crew is having a bad year. Well, it depends how you digest that meme in terms of nothing ever happens. World War III never happens. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Is Khamenei dead? No, I don't think he's dead. There's been reports that he is, but he was moved, I think, several times into safe houses and possibly underground, and they've got a lot of mountains within Iran. So they said he's going to be speaking. I mean, really, I don't know. I heard he was dead, then he's alive, now he's going to be speaking. So there's all these different reports. Everyone wants views off of this. They want engagement. So they're saying all this shit, but it's hard to really know what is verified. They may try to move him to Moscow. Moscow is a very safe place. Yeah, but does Russia want to be involved? I know they're an ally, but they really haven't helped Iran recently. I don't know. I don't know if this. To me, whether or not the stock market will open down, but I don't think it's gonna crash. I guess it depends on. There's the big whopper is, well, Iran attacking certain U.S. not military bases, but an aircraft carrier. If they had an aircraft carrier, they say that's a significant escalation. So if Iran hit an aircraft carrier tomorrow, I think it'd be very bad for the stock market. They're saying they're going to close the strait. If they close the Strait of Hormuz, I think it would hurt Iran more than anyone else. So they can do that, and it would be bad for everyone, including Iran's allies like China. It's just a mess. Most importantly, Dave Smith wants us all to know he was against the Iraq War. Yeah, that's a great one. We didn't know that. The bombing of Yemen. Yeah, so this is kind of the holding pattern that we saw last. Well, this may be a little bit different. Last year it was pretty straight up. They were hitting the nuclear sites and that was it. This seems like a multi-stage operation. But obviously there's an initial hit and then you're waiting for the response, and if the response is significant, then there's going to be more escalation. Last year the response was not significant at all. So it just died. The Iranian response, I'm talking. And obviously there were no US casualties, which creates a bigger escalation. Whatever the Iranian response, I mean, I think there's going to be more bombing from the United States, because what has really the United States accomplished so far? Well, we don't really know. We don't have the full reports. You have preliminary stuff, but they want the regime significantly weakened. They want the Ayatollah out. Are they going to stay until that's accomplished in terms of continue bombing? Why did Trump wait until after the State of the... Because I think it's all based on timing. I think they probably wanted to do the attack last week. But that could be you wait until after, because the entire State of the Union would just be about the attacker overshadowed, and you wouldn't have any chance to propagandize the State of the Union. But also, I think they probably were going to do it last week. These type of attacks, because they're so complex and you need like 5,000 things to go right to greenlight them, they tend to get delayed. I mean, the Venezuelan attack, I think, was delayed 3 times. Or I guess the Venezuelan capture. So I think this has probably been delayed a few different times if I had to guess. But the timing of it is pretty much, I mean, I would have said even a little bit earlier than they did it, just based off of exactly when we would think they would hit. But it's pretty much exactly what I thought. It was Saturday morning or Friday night Eastern Standard Time. Does this benefit your American life? I mean, there's a lot of things the U.S. government does that's not going to benefit me directly. I mean, they're the world hegemon. Do you think we will put in temporary leadership until the people elect someone? Who knows? I mean, what are they doing with Venezuela? Venezuela still technically has Maduro leadership that they're working with because they want the oil. I don't know what they're going to do with the leadership if they take all the Iranian leadership out. Hopefully, Trump set up Israel to get crushed by Iran. Bro, that's just fan fiction. I see it from some right wing accounts. Come on, really? Trump, who has been visited by Netanyahu 7 times, is going to set up Israel. Is just no way. Russia has its hands tied with Ukraine. No way that, yeah, no way this is World War III. The other thing with Russia is they've been, you're right, very preoccupied with Ukraine. So there's very little I think they can do to help Iran. So it puts Iran in an even more susceptible position, as well as the fact that China has really not been all that supportive of Iran. I mean, they say they don't, obviously they disapprove of the U.S. striking, but there's really no actual actions from China. There wasn't any actions last year either. Every time a liberal makes a good argument, I freeze, roll my tongue, and say, "What do you want me to do?" What? I don't even know what that. I don't know what that means. So yeah, Trump calls for overthrow of Iranian government. Threatened a broader regional conflict. Trump wants to devastate the country's military, eliminate their nuclear program, and bring a regime change. Yeah. U.S. Israel joint military strikes against these areas in Iran. Dude, Q is. We got it. People don't listen to Q anymore. Well, people said it was a psyop. This is still bad for Trump and will only hurt Republicans. But yeah, I don't think this can really help Trump, honestly. There's basically zero way this can help Trump when it comes to the midterms. Now, if it's a quick operation, I don't think it hurts very much. But something like this, it's going to be seen overall as unpopular. I mean, Republicans will support it. Most will support it, but most, I think 75-80% of independents won't support it. Maybe they won't care one way or another, but it's you hope a situation like this, it's a quick operation. I mean, you think about it, there's like 7 months to the midterms or whatever. People tend to have quick memories. I mean, think about the strikes in June. People forgot about them, or it just didn't really matter by October. But again, if it's a longer operation and there's casualties and there's a huge investment, there's only so much you can fearmonger if it's very quick and there's not a big investment and there's really no U.S. loss. You really can't fearmonger much. I mean, you can say the U.S. has appeased Israel too much. But when you get into like a month or 2 months and there's U.S. casualties and there's billions and billions invested, and it's all people, at the behest of Israel, it becomes a problem. There was once a president who stood up to that country and had Marilyn Monroe as a side piece, Chad. Yeah, and then what happened to him? Do you think Mossad and the CIA already have contacts within the regime ready to take over? Well, I would imagine they probably have rebels within Iran that rebel forces and protest forces there that could potentially. I mean, I don't know about take over, but they have to have some type of plan. You're not just going to bomb them with the hope of eliminating their regime without some Iranian rebel presence contacted. Yeah, I don't think it'll last long either. It's just not Trump's MO. I mean, this has kind of become a meme where they're like, well, Trump is such a hypocrite, it's no new wars. But you look at his military actions, they're all extremely quick. They are. So, based on Trump's tendencies, the idea that this would be a prolonged situation is very unlikely. But it is a little bit more complicated than what happened in June, because the entire talk was, well, you can target the nuclear sites, and that could even be seen as more justifiable than whatever this is. But the talk was, well, is it going to be regime change? And everyone was kind of wondering, would it be regime change? And Trump said no, and so that kind of quieted it down. Well, now you have a situation where you target different areas of Iran. I don't even exactly know what they're hitting here. Is it just military infrastructure? I mean, I could understand precision types or precision strikes against their top leaders to try and severely weaken them, but it's going to be a little bit more complicated, because it's like the regime change is going to be very complicated. It's not really manageable in any meaningful way. I mean, where's the discombobulator? Well, I guess they have those are QEDs, quantum entanglement devices, the discombobulator. Yeah, I guess Iran was able to disable it or something. I don't know. No, I mean they have different equipment for different type of operations. Maybe they used a few QEDs against maybe radar networks or something. I don't know. This will be more similar to Venezuela than people think. Yeah, in a different way, because it's going to be more so targeting and striking versus an actual capture. So if you kill a bunch of the top of their regime, there's not going to be really much left over, and then the takeover could be very swift. But obviously Venezuela was just a capture, and it lasted 3 hours. And that's like an action that a lot of people can digest a lot easier, because it pretty much happened in one night. People slept through it. When you have these situations and you're in the fog of war, there's going to be a lot of overreactions. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be, it's not going to be another extended period. It's just not, there's just no tendency from Trump to do that. And think about the way it would affect the markets and the midterms. When people say that, it's all fear mongering. There's just no way. They said the exact same thing last year. And albeit this is a more complicated situation, because we don't know exactly how that develops in terms of how long that would take, if that's what Trump actually wants. Like in terms of regime change, it'd probably take a significant escalation. But who knows? I mean, maybe they targeted a bunch of their top guys and that's it. Yeah, you could call for a regime change. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean the United States is going to be involved in a multi-month situation in the Middle East just because you call for regime change. If you kill a bunch of their top leader personnel, I mean, it's going to significantly weaken their regime, and it could help the protesters possibly. No, I don't think the Ayatollah is dead. I think it's been reported he's not dead. I mean, who really knows? But they said he was giving a speech. You think they're lying and saying he's still alive? I don't know. It depends if he comes out and gives a speech that I thought he was gonna give. Maybe it'll be a deep fake. You were gonna see Muslim attacks around the world now. That's the exact same thing you said back in June. I mean, that fear mongering just is kind of bullshit, dude. He was a no-shows for his speech, but I don't even know if that was a true thing. I mean, you're gonna get a bunch of these accounts that spread rumors, and it's like, remember when Iran warned Qatar hours before their retaliation? Yeah, I know, but that was a different situation. To be fair, I mean, they're gonna come out and do stronger strikes than that. But it seems like they're targeting the Gulf states. I don't know if that means the U.S. military bases within the Gulf states, or I mean, they were hitting Dubai. Where's the U.S. presence in Dubai? I guess. But really, Iran can only hit those areas. They only have access with their ballistic missiles to hit those the U.S. military bases within the Middle East. That's really all they can hit, realistically. There's just no way they're going to escalate it. I don't think to hit an aircraft carrier, because that's what would really escalate it. Yeah, from all that I know is the U.S. and Israel. They say it's preemptive. I mean, obviously that's bullshit. Let's be honest. They say it's preemptive because they want some type of justification, but they want a weaker Iran because it's best for Israel. So they preemptively struck Iran in all these areas on the map, and Iran is retaliating. We don't really have much information other than that, but apparently they killed a few of their top generals or leaders in Iran. You believe Iran was in the process of building an intercontinental ballistic missile? Well, yeah, I mean, I know they still have the reports where they were still working to try and have a nuclear bomb. I don't, who knows though, man. I mean, that's just used as propaganda so they can escalate against Iran. Gotta say, it's Trump standing there in a hat with a big USA goes way harder than any other modern president. What, during that statement that he made? Good for Israel, but also good for us because it gets rid of an ally of Russia, China. Well, I hear what you're saying. I mean, it depends the expenditure on this, right? What does the United States have to expend? Because Iran is really no threat to the United States. They're just not. Um, it's just not realistic for them to develop a nuclear weapon and then use it on the United States. It's like North Korea doing that. Like, what does it accomplish? Your entire country would be blown to smithereens. But yes, it is true that Iran exports 90% of their oil to China. That is true. And I don't know what it would look like if the US was able to create a regime change. What would happen to that oil? Would it hurt China significantly? I don't know. What was the accomplishment last year if we need to attack again so soon? Well, there are two different attacks. Last year it was shut down their nuclear program. This year it's because they want to beckon in regime change into Iran. So there are two different attacks. If they didn't want regime change, you could say the attack last year was very good because it significantly slowed down their timeline of nuclear proliferation. So I would say last year the attack was successful. I mean, I don't know exactly in terms of how many underground centrifuges they have, but apparently it did. They have that fortress at Fordo, and it did some serious damage because it slowed. They said it slowed down their nuclear program by years, and possibly. I mean, they would have to rebuild a lot of the conversion centers and things like that. Because the conversion centers you need to make nuclear bombs. If Iran gets nukes, they will use them. Yeah, I don't see it, honestly, even if they got nukes. Countries get nukes more so for security to say, don't fuck with us. If they got nukes and used them, they would fucking blow up their entire country. I mean, it's just like, what is the point? Russian Telegram channels are chanting death to Jews in USA. Meanwhile, Iran targets a hotel full of Russian tourists. Such hypocrisy. Yeah, dude, Telegram is like, well, who cares about fucking what they're saying in Telegram? I know Telegram's a huge hub for like military updates, but well, if they really wanted to destroy Israel, why wouldn't they just send all their missiles at Israel right now? I mean, they have the capability to send a fuck ton of ballistic missiles at Israel right now if they wanted to, if they actually didn't care, and they did it in the name of global jihad. Yeah, the doomsday clock is kind of irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, kind of a nothing updates there, but strike on a hotel in Dubai. Looks like they went after a U.S. naval base. I mean, it's still developing in terms of their reaction or their retaliation. Yeah, I would say this is not going to be a long-term situation at all. You think it has more to do about Europe, Ukraine, and Taiwan? I don't know about that. Well, you're always going to get fear mongering with right when a situation develops. It always happens on the internet. Yeah, I saw that claim about the school with children. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of information. I don't know how accurate that is. Yeah, I can. You bet it's going to be a long war. I guarantee you it won't be. Come on. I mean, I feel like people just really don't pay attention to what Trump does and Trump's tendencies when it comes to geopolitical conflicts. You think the children claim is fake? I know unless something happened where a drone went rogue or something, I don't see how that's realistic. They happen on the weekend because the stock market's closed. Yeah, well, they like to call they like to say it's a war. They said last year it was a war. They said last year with US, zero U.S. equipment harmed, they said it was a war. Now this, I don't know. This could be a little bit bigger of an engagement. We'll have to see. Just a peace guy on Salon. There's no point now. I mean, maybe a week ago would have been a good buy. Everyone is saying the end of the world. Really, because Iran got struck, it's the end of the world? No, it's fucking bullshit fear mongering on the internet. Well, I'm sure Tucker is not going to be happy with this. There's a lot of people on the right that are going to be very upset with this. A lot of people. Do you think this war will end before Monday? Monday is pretty. I think it won't be escalated at all. I'll say that there'll be a lot clearer of a picture probably by tomorrow. Well, we have to see what the exact response is from Iran and then what Trump wants to do after that. Because if you think about it, we don't know where they hit, how much was decimated within Iran, the targets. I mean, they obviously are hitting these targets for a reason. I think it's overall just to weaken their regime, and we'll have to see. I mean, it's a fog of war. I mean, we don't know the exact areas and how weak Iran is after these strikes and the Iranian response. It looks pretty weak from what I can see. It doesn't surprise me if it ends up being weak, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there'll be that many buying opportunities on Monday. I'm not sure it's going to open crazy down. I mean, it's going to open down, but again, there's a reason they do these things on Saturday morning, so there's a clear cooling period before that you get like a rapid reaction in the markets. Well, they can't be isolationist. It's impossible for them right now. The amount of the amount of bases the United States has in other countries. I mean, unless they just closed them down and said fuck it. Seems like the U.S. bases were damaged a lot in terms of usage and infrastructure, but they managed to get planes and troops out. I'm guessing they probably, yeah, this is probably an escalation to where they actually were able to make contact with the bases in terms of penetrating them. Because remember last year they got the missiles got intercepted. They tried hitting a base. They told them about it. They got intercepted. If Trump pulls out a regime change, he will be the goat. Well, maybe the goat for Israel. I mean, there is like American perspectives to look at it. I mean, it depends the investment in terms of how much it would cost to get a regime change. What do I think of Palantir? I mean, I don't know. Palantir, Palantir is like Peter Thiel. It's like the same. It's like anytime you mention them, it's radioactive. It's like the most. It's like the thing we have to be most scared of. Peter Thiel, Palantir. The action weakens China. No, I hear ya. They get a ton of oil from Iran. I mean, but I don't know. Is that really justification for the United States to do it? Iranian oil will make gas cheaper. This is being done for the wrong reasons. Yeah, but I mean, gas is already cheap as it is. We already have access to a ridiculous amount of oil, anyways. I mean, yeah, it's not being done for for gas or anything like that. The real Klaus Schwab used to watch your streams. Yeah, that was a decent amount of time. He was like a 6 month watcher, and then he stopped. Yeah, there's going to be something in Cuba, but I've been reading. I think they might try and de-escalate Cuba because Cuba's economy is completely fucked at this point. And it's not just because they're sanctions; it's because they're dumbass socialist policies. But the sanctions also hurt. They were fucked long before the heavy sanctions, but there's going to be some type of action that happens in Cuba, but I don't know what it's going to be. Imagine how great a Walmart would look in Tehran. Yeah, maybe a Trump Tower. Now, I mean, we'll see what happens with this, but I mean, it develops and people just go crazy. There's going to be a dispute over war powers, but I think that's kind of irrelevant. They always talk about that when there's a president does action in the Middle East. You're going to Ohio for the first time next weekend with your friends. Well, what city are you going to? Does this make U.S. a hyperpower? No, they have to raise their military budget to do that, I think. Even more. Maybe if they have this much amount of control over oil, it does. Yeah, socialism just doesn't work as when you're going up against capitalist countries, you're going to lose every time. Even if you think capitalism is greedy, it doesn't matter. Competition will always win. I mean, as long as the capitalist country is competent. People say Iran is a no threat to the United States. Then they say in the next sentence, Iran is strong and they can put up a fight. Which one is it? Well, Iran is no threat to the United States from a point of them having conflict with the U.S. Like by hitting the U.S. with missiles, they're no threat. Iran is, but it's hard to obviously conquer Iran. The country is extremely large. There's a ton of people, so those are two different things. Like Iran, they can defend themselves to a degree if we're striking them. If they try and strike us, there's very little they can do. There's basically nothing they can do. They can strike our military bases. That's about it. They can close the strait, which probably hurts them more than anyone. And it makes all their allies pissed at them if they close the strait. So, they have missiles that can hit Europe. Yeah, but what does that do? That's just going to anger the Europeans. They want to hit. I mean, it's going to make it worse for them. Does it turn nuclear? No. No, it definitely doesn't turn nuclear. Anyone saying that is fear mongering. Mom Donnie came out against it. Well, I mean, I guess we'll see what ends up happening. I don't see Listen, when it comes to something like this, there's very little positives from a domestic standpoint for the United States. At least you look at US voters, there's going to be very little positives. Now, if it's a quick operation, you're not going to really see it affect, I don't think, anything like the midterms, but it just depends how long the operation goes on for. It won't turn nuclear, especially when it comes to Israel. Their neighbors know Israel has nukes, and also it's Iran we're talking about. It's not. This is not a country. I don't think that triggers a world war. But people they think irrationally when something happens, when there's escalation. It's an immediate hyperdrive to the highest rung. Were you? Yeah, I was awake at 2 a.m., but I wasn't gonna stream at 2 a.m. I was awake for this one, so I knew the strikes happened. I thought, I went to the movie theater. I thought it was gonna happen when I was in the movies, because everybody was saying yesterday. Everyone was saying because of the way in which they were starting to maneuver yesterday within Iran, and then they have all the embassies evacuated and all that. It's like you can tell when these are coming. There's just too many signs. Maybe you can't pinpoint the exact hour, but I don't even think they're showing the Melania movie anymore. I heard it actually got a lot of people watched it. No, I saw the Scream 7 or whatever, the new Scream. The pizza isn't a good one. The pizza is bullshit because they always say, "Oh, the pizza shops are very busy," and then nothing ever comes of it. I don't think the pizza is a good indicator. The pizza monitor, dude. I was gonna look at this. It's called like globalmonitor.com or dot app. And then people are like, "Oh, this is an amazing thing for monitoring the situation." And the thing is just like there's like four fucking billion things on the screen. I'm doing it's like annoying. It's like, dude, come on. Yeah, I don't think Russia is going to help Iran. That's part of the reason why it's the opportune time for them to do this operation, because Russia dealing with Ukraine, China hasn't really shown much interest in significantly helping Iran in any crazy capacity either. Terrorist loving leftists crying about Trump Iran here in the UK. Well, there's a lot of overlap. It's a lot of right wing people that don't like this as well. This is not very popular by Trump. That's why he has to understand it has to be quick if he's doing something like this. It's just with the people on the right, they say the justification is, well, because of the nuclear threat. I don't really see any nuclear threat from Iran, honestly. That's the thing. But the regime change, you could say geopolitically it helps because of Iran's relationship with Russia, China, their shipment of oil to China. But is it really worth it is the question. We'll have to see what happens in terms of the expenditure on this conflict. And look, they're going to say it's a war or whatever. Well, I mean, let's see the US casualties, let's see the boots on the ground, let's see the billions invested, let's see all of that. You want to call it a war? Do you also get paid by Qatar? I get paid in coupons by Qatar. They give me like a 50% off deal for my next trip. Tom Cotton says conflict will be weeks, not days. Yeah, the Middle East is always a problem. Khamenei has not been confirmed dead. He might be dead, but they could be lying. They haven't confirmed he's alive from what I've seen. So they're gonna have to have him speak or something, and they hit all of his compounds from what I've seen, or they hit like 4 or 5 of them. Yeah, they might use AI. I mean, they'll be able to probably figure it to tell if it's AI or not. I mean, I would think that that would be their key big fish. I mean, I guess there is a possibility if he's in a mountain or something, it's gonna be impossible. But I mean, with their intelligence, the thing is Iran had to have known this was coming. These are all telegraphed because they have to be based on troop movement, based on movement of the people of being evacuated from the embassies. So you would think he'd be in a secure place. Now there's potential in terms of if there's some type of espionage or something where you can have people on the inside and it can be easier to know exactly where he is at a certain time. But are they blasting Dubai? I thought they just hit an apartment. I mean, or they hit like a hotel. Yeah, I did see that AOC botchery that was in Germany. Yeah, what a joke that was. That's an embarrassment for a U.S. politician to be speaking like that. I guess. Dude, the Dubai law. I understand people move to Dubai because it's zero taxes, but I could never do that. It's just the weather, the location. Fuck that. Yeah, I saw the video of Jim Carrey. I mean, what did they sub him out? What's the purpose of subbing him out? They subbed him out for someone else. I don't know what happened to him though. Khamenei is dead. I mean, is what report says that? What verified? Did Telegram say it? White guys falling victim to the Islamic propaganda is scary. Well, it's just they're anti-Israel. They're just extremely anti-Israel. So any type of involvement to weaken a adversary to Israel, they're going to be pro-Iran or pro whatever Islamic regime. The Doomers are already out in full force. Well, there's always going to be the fear mongering when you get a strike like this. I mean, there has been action involving Iran like the past 3 or 4 years. I remember a strike back, I think, in 2023. People thought it was World War III during Biden. So I mean, it's like this is a bit of this seems like an escalation though. If they really want regime change, it seems like it's very complicated. But who knows? I mean, we thought that Maduro was going to be complicated. I'm not saying it's the exact same thing, but closing the Strait of Hormuz has more of an impact than hitting bases. Oh, yeah, 100%. But it also hurts Iran and their allies when they do that. So there would be maximum pressure on Iran if they did that, because that would be a global problem. And you could say, well, it would also pressure the U.S. and Israel to de-escalate, but think about who's stronger, the U.S. and Israel or Iran. So if Iran really does that, it's going to piss a lot of people off. And they're also going to be pissed off at the U.S. and Israel for escalating it, but Venezuela mission failed regime is still there. Well, it's like a puppet regime that really isn't. I mean, it's Maduro's regime, but they're cooperating with the United States, I think, probably because they're scared shitless after they took Maduro. So as long as the U.S. has cooperation from them now, I think, and then we'll see what happens in terms of some type of transfer. The same liberals that said free Palestine totally ignored Iran killing their own citizens because of the time they had Minnesota to bitch about. And now they're saying stop U.S. imperialism. Like, what the fuck? Well, they're always going to be against Trump no matter what. Any type of action Trump takes, they'll be against. But this is like, this is just not a very popular action by Trump. There's really no other way to say it. I mean, but liberals, what's the point of even, obviously they just hate Trump. Who cares? Really, who cares what they say? It's just going to be anti-Trump. Thoughts on other Middle Eastern countries' involvement? Depends. If their airspace gets violated, I mean, they'll shoot down. The other Middle Eastern countries have shot down Russian or Iranian drones. Well, I mean, I didn't say that. That was a donation that said that. I never said they killed all those people. Like, I know there was protesters that were killed. I don't think it was that much. I mean, yeah, he would have a chance. Trump would have a chance, but I mean, that's a if age wasn't a problem, I mean, I don't know, man. It's not even worth discussing that. I mean, but the thing is, you know, even if they did kill a bunch of people, they're just looking for a justification to attack Iran. Let's be real. Saudi Arabia joins. I thought that was Hegseth saying something right now.
Targeting, one of the first strikes was targeting Iran's supreme leader's compound, Ali Khamenei, who has been the leader of Iran since 1989. If you can imagine, he's the longest-serving leader in the Middle East. His compound was targeted, and I think they probably wanted to lure the Iranian leadership into some bit of complacency and assuming that they would be home or in their offices during daylight hours. It also is a sign that they feel pretty confident that they control the air above Iran and that the air defense systems are not as strong as they were last summer. They were targeting one of the first.
Well, they did during the day. They wanted him to be home. Because they normally do happen like 4 or 5 a.m. Yeah, Fetterman's been a big supporter of this operation, I saw.
We just heard from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on X, and I wanted to read this. She just put out a post saying that President Trump monitored the situation overnight at Mar-a-Lago alongside members of his national security team. She also confirmed that President Trump spoke with Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu, which we do have a photo of, if we can bring up, from Netanyahu's office as he spoke with President Trump this morning. Now, prior to the attacks, and this is what a State Department official has told me as well, Secretary Rubio called all members of the Gang of Eight to provide congressional notification. He was able to reach and brief 7 of the 8 members. She adds that the president and his national security team will continue to closely monitor the situation throughout the day. And we've also been texting with Caroline, asking to see whether or not we will hear from President Trump again today. We know that we saw his speech in the early morning hours announcing this operation, Epic Fury, but we don't know if we'll hear from him again, as he is in Mar-a-Lago today at his residence in Florida. He is not here at the White House, but I do know that Secretary of State Marco Rubio is there at Mar-a-Lago with him, a State Department official tells me, as well as the additional information about Rubio briefing members of Congress. Remember, earlier this week, he was on Capitol Hill. Members were coming out saying they were concerned about this. Later that night, it was President Trump's State of the Union. He only touched on Iran very briefly.
Rubio has been a big supporter of escalation. I think Vance was anti, or he had more trepidation about it. Yeah, I know you could kind of say it's good because it weakens China and Russia, especially China, the amount of trade that they have with Iran. Let's see if we can get some of the snippets from Trump. I don't exactly know when he did that statement. I'm guessing it was really early this morning.
Posted around 2:30 this morning. At 4 o'clock this morning, the president told the Washington Post, "All I want is freedom for the people. I want a safe nation, and that's what we are going to have." President Trump told Fox News nobody has briefed him to say that these strikes will definitely lead to regime change. But he is telling the Iranian people to take back their government while admitting that he gave these orders to strike with full knowledge they could trigger a long war. Posted around 2:30 this morning.
Well, we can't have that. I mean, so what is I mean, that doesn't really give us much. They don't know if if it's actually going. I mean,
it's a great question. The Iranians do not have the same capabilities they had during the 12-day war last June. Oftentimes, they were overwhelming Israel's missile defense systems, and you saw these ballistic missiles here in Tel Aviv, and I'm just listening to these interceptions on the outskirts of the city as we're talking now, Brett.
yeah, if they do close the strait, I do think that we would see a mess. You would say crash, but there would be a large problem with the stock market on Monday. If they close the strait tomorrow or they targeted the aircraft carrier tomorrow, there's going to be a big problem. Crazy to think October 7th was the biggest mistake of all time for the Iranian regime. Ironic that if they had never launched that attack, Iran would probably have its nuke now.
Those missiles are being intercepted even at this moment. But last year, when they were able to overwhelm missile defense systems, these missiles were slamming into buildings in Tel Aviv. More than 24 people were killed. Rescue workers at the scene digging through the debris and the rubble. We've not yet seen those scenes this time. That's in part because of the coordination at the highest level. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ensuring...
Well, they were definitely working on a nuke. You don't have that many centrifuges in operation. You're not working on a nuke. Now, you can debate whether they were close to a nuke and whether that was justification for the U.S. to do that and bomb them. But they were definitely working on a nuke. You're not going to have the amount of facilities that they had, and you're not working on a nuke. But I agree, it was probably just the U.S. potentially over-embellished the stage they were in terms of... I mean, I think they had 60% enrichment. So that's a late stage. They're close to becoming operational with a nuke if they were at 60% enrichment. Obviously, now I don't know what the fuck they're at.
That there were months of preparation ahead of this operation to not only prepare offensively, but also defensively. The second thing has to do with the immediate strikes early this morning. We reviewed some video from the Israeli Defense Forces showing how they went after Iran's ballistic missile launching positions in the western part of their country. These are the missile launchers that they use to target central Israel. They largely are protected. Sometimes they bring them out from underground. The Israelis were using drones along the coast just next to the Persian Gulf to monitor this situation in the days ahead. And they want to, every single time they see a missile or a launcher be taken above ground, hit it right away. And that's exactly what they have done. And this current hour, it has suppressed a lot of the incoming fire. We know, according to Israeli officials, they say dozens of Iranian missiles have rained down on cities today. But again, that is far less than what we saw last summer when the war erupted. Brett?
Yeah, and Trey, I just want to ask you one more thing, and that is about this this morning strike, daylight.
Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's compound, which can be seen in satellite photos as mere rubble. It's not clear whether the Ayatollah was there. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi spoke to NBC moments ago and was asked to confirm whether the Ayatollah and the Iranian president are still alive.
As far as I know, yes, they are alive. And the head of judiciary as well, the head of the Speaker of Parliament as well, all high-ranking officials are alive. And the secretary of the National Security Council. So everybody is now in its position, and we are handling this situation, and everything is fine.
We'll see. We'll see if that's true or not. As far as he knows, yeah, that's a big point. Massive Iranian bots, 99%. See, what does this really mean? 99% of Iranian accounts are bots? Is that what they're saying?
Based on intelligence about leadership and gatherings of leadership and knowing where they are or were. And we can confirm that the Ayatollah's, the supreme leader's compound was hit very hard. We just don't know exactly what comes from that. But if you look back at the last time Israel went inside and bombed leadership positions in June, they had intel on the ground about leaders meeting in one room, and then they took out the room and erased a lot of senior leadership for Iran in that June attack. It's very possible that the daylight strike this morning is based on active intelligence that happened based on where those leaders were and meeting.
Good point.
You know, Brett, to that point also, you know, we were expecting, at least the military, the United States and Israel were expecting to hear something from the Houthis or Hezbollah because they are, in fact, the proxies. Do you think because Israel, with of course the support of the United States, have dismantled them so much that that may be the problem here, why we're not seeing rockets coming from those areas? What do you know?
Yeah, listen, all of these terrorist proxies have been diminished in
Well, yeah, maybe AOC would be the next president if this is a fucking long-term war, honestly. Now, that's doomerism.
part because of previous attacks by Israel and the U.S., but also in part because they're not getting the funding and the support from the mothership of Iran because of the really stranglehold of sanctions.
Well, we're trying to find this speech from Trump. I mean, they really got to have an interview with Fetterman.
When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. When we are finished, take over your government. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. To the members of the Islamic message, they will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength.
Yeah, but the thing is, you say a dozen die in Afghanistan that got swept under the rug. That sunk Biden's presidency. You can see after the Afghanistan withdrawal how Biden's approval rating got destroyed, and it never came back.
Or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never...
Dude, Tucker's not winning, bro. Come on. You're really going to do the Tucker alt thing because you hate Israel? I mean, look, there'll definitely be an anti-Israel candidate, maybe MTG. Yeah, that doesn't sound good at all. I mean, you wonder how much of it is just dress up, but that's why I was saying it sounded more of an aggressive speech, and he was preparing people. There's going to be casualties. Well, I mean, if there's casualties, it's a big problem. Now it becomes a lot harder to defend. I mean, it's already hard to defend, but if it's a light action or if it's a quick action, there's not much substance they have to fearmonger. I don't know, man. They say Rubio or Vance. I think probably Vance, but Rubio is gaining steam, and apparently Trump really likes Rubio, and there's some rumors going around, but who knows? Supreme Leader's children were killed. That's what's being reported? What does that even mean? We don't get pushed around, so we bomb Iran and get into a Middle Eastern conflict? That doesn't even make sense. Yeah, Rubio may be better for. I mean, you don't want to talk about electoral politics right now, but Rubio may be better for Hispanics in that case. He definitely is, but Vance, he's probably honestly better than Vance in terms of if they want to win. Supreme Leader has been eliminated. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, this is the United States. They do an attack like this. They have the most intelligence. They obviously want to weaken the regime significantly. I'm guessing they did it during the daytime, probably to try and know his exact routine and where he'd be. And so we'll see if they're lying or not. Boy, what a complete disaster of a chat. I mean, this is a brutal one, but I mean, this is kind of what you expect with this. I think the one last year was worse than this one. Crypto is bouncing back. You can't keep it down. You can't keep it down even after the strikes, even after the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. You think Vance's age could be a very appealing factor for candidacy? Yeah, but Rubio also isn't that old. I mean, if Rubio was older, I'd say there's a contrast between the two, but I don't think Rubio is really that old anyways. Right now you're Rubio over Vance. Yeah, I'd probably say Vance is better than Rubio. No, I mean, honestly, I'm not saying I would ban anyone in the chat. I'm just saying, this especially an action like this for right wing Twitter, it's just gonna cause its own nuclear meltdown. You're gonna get wings, dude. Wings are like so expensive. I don't get it. It's like, I don't know why they call it. You get gourmet wings. It's like $10 a wing. You feel like you're the only one who gets pissed at Trump for this? Oh, you should see my timeline. Go on any Republican timeline. There's a bunch of people that are not happy about this action. Yeah, that's what I think about wings. I think they're just overpriced. You look at wings, it's like, why are they so expensive? You're at Soldier Field. It's got to be tough. They definitely need a new stadium. They're playing at Soldier Field. The soccer team. 6'7" coin at 1.2. Bro, the 6'7" meme is dead. I'd stay away from it. Most likely Cinderella. No, I'd have to. I was gonna say St. Louis, but they have struggled like hell the past 3 weeks. I'd have to look at. I mean, like a 9, 10, 11, 12 seed. Maybe South Florida in a 12v5 game, and then they face a 4 seed. But the ones angriest are kind of rhino-like. No, they would be happy about this. You know, this is in support of Israel. The ones angriest are extremely anti-Israel, Gen Z, or Gen Z coded, or like, you know, millennial. How long do you plan to stream? I don't know. Maybe another few hours or so. I don't know, because the thing is actually I'm not even sure if we're gonna get any crazy update. The update to me that we're looking for is, what is the exact Iranian response? Is the Ayatollah dead? And then where do we go from here? You know, these statements from Trump are really wide open, and it leads me to think, well, it is going to be a broader, bigger conflict. They're just wide open statements, like the whole regime thing. Okay, how does that really materialize? What does that look like? Or is it just going to be precision strikes against their leadership? I mean, but we have to see in terms of the exact response from Iran. Is it escalatory? And then what does Trump do about that? And like, what's the next step for the United States in terms of, obviously they were striking specific strategic areas of Iran specifically to weaken the regime. Yeah, we're not going to really know anything, unfortunately, probably till tonight or tomorrow. I mean, there's going to have to be a clear picture by Sunday night because of the markets, which they're going to want there to be a clear picture. But again, with what, I mean, Trump says stuff and you don't know, but China's looking at Taiwan like it's free real estate. It's not really that easy for China. Taiwan's going to be a mess for them. And it's going to be really, Taiwan is going to be a mess for the entire world. It's going to be a mess for the United States. Any way you look at the Taiwan China situation, the U.S. will help Taiwan. It's going to be, and it's a better situation for the U.S. than even Russia, Ukraine. You look at Russia and China, it's funding a war from you know, a proxy standpoint to weaken an adversary. So they're going to fund Taiwan. The United States will. That's why you get a lot of these socialists. They're very angry. There are a lot of these Democrat candidates that support Taiwan. These socialists are like, how dare you? But it's the most obvious thing ever. This would be a great time to invade Taiwan. A great time would have been right after Russia launched their invasion. That's when I thought they were going to do it. You know, there's a lot that goes into it though, in terms of if they actually think they can succeed. But you want to talk about a multi-year mess? That would be a multi-year mess. I mean, that's what Russia Ukraine is too. But I mean, people just look at a map and say, well, look at the island. It's so small, they'll be invaded. It's just not how it works. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to capture the Ayatollah like that, like they got Maduro. I don't think that's really feasible. Unless they have some crazy insider, they have some crazy espionage mission. 50-50 he's dead or alive. Isn't Ayatollah dead? Yeah, nobody knows. I'll just say nobody knows. Nobody knows if he's dead or not. I'd be surprised if he was alive at this point because of the way the United States operates with these operations. And they very clearly wanted to eliminate their regime. Well, you can do beach landings, I think, 2 different times in the year because this strait is so it's so choppy. You can only do it 2 times. But I mean, a beach landing, that's a mess. You know, based on where their cities are located, to do a beach landing onto Taiwan. Oof. Yeah, 100%. I think with where U.S. intelligence is at, if they're going to do something like this, and it came at a I knew when it was 2 a.m. and they did it. That's a peculiar time. It's during the day in Iran. And so that might have been because they had intelligence that he was going to be in a certain place during the day at a certain time, and that was when they were going to do it. And it all has to be coordinated at the exact same time. Strait of Hormuz was just closed. Yeah, but so is that confirmed? I mean, that's another thing where they say it's closed and then it's really not. I saw they were telling ships to turn around or something, and if it's actually closed, that's going to cause a snap reaction. But that's also going to make a lot of other countries very angry. It's not just going to hurt the United States, the US economy. That's going to hurt a lot. But it's not. It's seen as. I mean, it is U.S. Israel aggression. There's really no other way you can say it. I mean, we could try and justify it through the nuclear threat or through the protesters killed, but probably won't affect midterms if it doesn't prolong. Yeah, that's what I think as well. But the way they're talking, and this could just be Trump saying it, it seems like it might be a bit longer. I think there's no way. There's no way. That's not what. But it is a complicated mess if it is a regime change. I mean, look at the Venezuelan regime change. It hasn't even happened yet. And they got Maduro in a much easier way. But I guess they could do a holding pattern with Iran similar to what they have with Venezuela. I mean, why wouldn't they be able to do that? What happens if the U.S. gets control of Cuba? Well, then it becomes an entirely different economic system in Cuba. What are your overall thoughts on this at this point in time? Good, bad? Well, this is not a positive development, I'll be honest. But it can be salvaged if it's a quick operation. And there's ways to argue it geopolitically, not including Israel, but it's hard to get around that. He has 45 days is fuck. Middle East conflict for 45 days seems you're pushing it there. I mean, the cost, the casualties, all of that matters heavily. But the thing is if you get into this, if it's 45 days, it's perceived as a war. So that's going to immediately be used against you for the midterms. And they can say whatever they want about Iran and stuff. There's no way a normie in America feels threatened by Iran. It's just not going to happen. Best case scenario, attack stops Sunday, and the war is Yeah, but why? That would I know what you're saying, but that's like them saying we shouldn't have done that. They're not going to do that. Obviously, this is something that they've planned for a while, and they have their own strategy. And on Sunday, they're not going to say, well, we're not. The best case would be the Ayatollah is killed, and the regime enters some type of holding pattern similar to Venezuela, where technically there's a peacetime, and maybe there's a transfer of regime. Because, like, what even is happening with Venezuela? That person was actually made kind of a good point. I mean, it's still Maduro-led regime in there, but they're, like, puppet controlled by the U.S. or something. I mean, it's like, you want something similar to Venezuela because it happened so quickly. And it was so clean. And so if all their top leaders are gone, what does that really mean for the Iranian regime? The news cycle is super fast these days, though. I know, but the problem is if it sticks. See, you don't want it to stick. I agree with you. The news cycle is very fast. And you can take advantage of that. If it's over quickly, it's not. Nobody's gonna care. But if it is like they say 40 days, 40, then it's gonna stick. You don't want it sticking and it becoming a narrative for the midterms. I agree with you, though. If this is something that's over relatively quickly, on June 25th, nobody's going to be talking about this. I mean, people will talk about it as like Trump cucking to Israel, but it's not going to be it's not going to be a decider at all. And honestly, the more that I think about it, I don't think this, I mean, again, it depends what happens, but the way Trump operates, I just can't see this being a decider for the midterms. I would be shocked if it was, because if it's a decider for the midterms, then it's a long operation. There's U.S. casualties. There's a huge investment. I mean, the economy is always going to roll, but then this is kind of tied to the economy, they'll say. If there's a significant investment, they'll just start utilizing the investment we have into this conflict as like, oh, see, the economy sucks because of this. Yeah, I mean, there's people saying they're abandoning Trump. I don't know if they're... I mean, this happened last June. You have to understand, this was the exact same thing that happened in last June where people said they were abandoning Trump. So, I mean, it's a real thing. I mean, people think, it's just cuckery to Israel. But I don't know how much of it is... Trump is not going to lose any crazy support for this from the Republican base. But there are a lot of loud people on the internet. You predict a short operation, but it's a failure. No regime change. Iran continues to militarize. Well, but would Trump accept that? Why would the U.S., if they've committed to this, why would they accept that? I mean, the failure would just be the U.S. backing down because I guess they underestimated. They didn't have the proper intelligence on the Iranian regime. I don't know if the U.S. would really accept that. Unless it's a war, then he will lose the base. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if it's a war, if it's like a prolonged war, he knows it can't happen. When we backed out of Minneapolis, yeah, there's a problem with backing out of Minneapolis, and people will debate on whether or not he actually backed out of Minneapolis. But now it emboldens liberals to continue to act that way in other states when it comes to these deportations. If anything, you should triple down and almost make Minnesota a police state. Because, I mean, you can't have these fucking protesters controlling immigration policy. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. Second war with Iran. I mean, you saying that doesn't really matter. I mean, in terms of like the American vernacular, nobody thought there was a war last year with Iran. You can say it was a war. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't change the overall public. It doesn't change what actually happened. Where it lasts 2 days and there's no U.S. equipment damage, there's no U.S. casualties. You want to call that a war? It really doesn't matter. People don't view it as a war. Yeah, well, I think there's some things behind the scenes with Trump, and it's unfortunate. But it's like, what do you want me to say? Oh, he's just blackmailed by Israel. So, like, nobody really knows in terms of what's behind the scenes. Trump has lived a long life. There's a lot of things that go on with this. Backing out of Minnesota was... Well, you know what I saw, dude? Trump apparently was, like, not happy that Kash Patel celebrated. I was shocked by that. I'm like, that's fine. Kash Patel did a cool thing. He's a really big hockey fan. So what, he celebrated the U.S. winning, and then Trump apparently told him, no, you can't do that. Like, seriously? That's what you're going to get mad at? Come on. After the complete mismanagement and incompetence by Pam Bondi, that's what you're going to get angry at? Yeah, I mean, I get you don't care about Iran and you want illegals deported, but it's a major event for the presidency of Trump. This situation with Iran, you know. Now we'll see. People will probably overreact, and hopefully it's not as big. Yeah, but young people really don't vote very much. I think that's overrated with young people. Young people are really loud on the internet. They're really quiet in the voting booths. That was a pretty queer thing for me to say, but I mean that's kind of how it is. The Epstein handling, yeah, the Epstein handling wasn't great. That's putting it mildly. Concerned about Dubai. Yeah, I don't know what to make of them striking the hotel in Dubai. Very strange. I mean, if there's like a U.S. military installation or something, but Trump won because of the young vote? Not really. Trump won because he won Hispanics by crazy margins that people thought wasn't going to happen. You think we're going to get more rounds of the Epstein files being released? I don't know. I mean, it's been butchered so bad. I mean, what do they said that that was the final release. When they released those 3 million files, they said that was the final release. Now, I don't know if they're getting so much public pressure they release more, but at this point what are they going to release more, and then it's just I mean, I hopefully they release everything and just, because we want to know that you want transparency, but this really was the issue. The issue is it's very complex. The files span so many different things. It's not just people involved with trafficking with Epstein. There's so many different people involved. That was the entire problem they had with the release of them in the first place, was that there were so many people involved that were not guilty, that were going to be perceived as guilty. Or at least that was one of the big things, that was the problem. And that's exactly what's happened. Exactly what's happened. He won because of Gen X. Yeah. Well, the boomers now have gone left. Have you seen that? Gen X is like the most right, I think. Could he be trying to get the controversial things out of the way so that it quiets? Definitely. This is happening now because you're not going to do this in July, right? I mean, you do it now, not in September. I mean, it's very, very clearly political timing in terms of when the midterms are. So it had to have been done, whether it was February or March. Everybody knew it had to have been done at a certain period before really it got into midterm season. But even something like this is going to be used to where it depends the expenditure, because they can say, well, this is bad because Trump is spending all this money. Look at how bad the economy is. That's going to be just propagandized. And it's very hard to say. The argument, it's a geopolitical argument. It really hinges on China, the amount of oil that they get from Iran. But even that is like, if they would have to get regime change for that to be a legitimate argument, because then we could control the oil and it would hurt China. But what is the investment that's needed in terms of regime change to make that work, and is it even worth it, is the question. Because otherwise, then the normie argument is, well, they have potential for nuclear bomb, they're killing all the protesters, but it just turns into this Israel thing. Because it's like, is that really a threat to the United States for Iran to be doing this, or is this just cucking to Israel to try and eliminate Iran because they're a big threat in the region? You support Trump for domestic issues, but the foreign policy has been pretty bad. I know, man. If he goes through with regime change, I mean, what the fuck does that look like? I mean, regime change being worth it for the U.S. is very hard to swing. Outside of, again, the China angle. They have to use the China angle, I feel like, if they do actually try and push for that, because the fear-mongering about nukes is not going to work. It's the boy who cried wolf with nukes in Middle Eastern countries. If you support the freedom of the Iranian regime, I don't care either way about the Iranian regime, honestly. Iran is they're thousands of miles away from the U.S. So I mean, I know it's a protection, it's a isolationist approach, and you can't always take that, but I mean, I don't know what Trump means when he says, "Oh, there's going to be U.S. casualties and all this," but does that mean they're going to hit U.S. bases and there's going to be people, or does that mean boots on the ground? Do you think those people asking for Trump's help had any effect on anything? They were just another excuse. Who are you talking about? The resistance fighters in Iran, or are you talking about something different? Yeah, they can declare themselves an enemy. North Korea can declare themselves enemy too, but is it a justification for military action in a prolonged situation? That's the problem. Yeah, that's all just a prop. It's all a prop. Think about the nuclear talks. That what are the nuclear? I was trying to read, like, what are they even deliberating on? And it's the same shit. They're like, well, you're not able to have. We don't want you to have any enrichment, and they wanted to have like 3 or 4% enrichment or something. I just think it's all bullshit. They just wanted to strike them, so they have these nuclear talks. Like, how can you even have nuclear talks? They bombed all of their major nuclear facilities. So we're going to have nuclear talks about what the one facility that's still standing and the amount of enrichment. There's just, the talks are just, they're for show. Best case is like a quick operation of some way, but if it's a regime change, it's going to be hard. But I mean, we said the same thing about Venezuela. Maybe they can do something, some type of operation. They get rid of all their regime within a day or something, but then I don't know what happens. They're going to have to possibly communicate with the next in line if they end up killing a bunch of their regime. Like, who would take over after that? Israel is saying it's signs that supreme leader is no longer. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see in terms of the intelligence, because there were reports that the Ayatollah was killed last year, and people thought that for like maybe 12 hours or 14 hours. They said, well, he's not alive. Where's the proof? They didn't believe Iran when they said he was alive. So it's like a similar thing. So we'll have to see this time. Obama nuclear deal wasn't bad. Yeah, but I think the problem with the Obama nuclear deal is it expired after a certain period, and I don't think they were following. No, the problem is with that they were not following the 3% enrichment. They had enriched up to 60%. And I believe that was independently verified that they had enriched up to 60%. Now, look, people will say whatever they want, that it's just a justification. They want a justification, but the problem with that deal was it wasn't being adhered to. No major update in hours. Yeah, it's going to take some time. Probably tonight or tomorrow. That's the thing with doing an enrichment deal. It's almost like it's just a waste of time. They're going to follow the enrichment deal. No, yeah, there's just no way it's an no. There's no way it's an. I just can't see any way there's going to be any type of invasion. That's next. I mean, with where the Republican Party is at, with the kind of the opinion of neocons and the early 2000s and the sandbox, there's just no way. I mean, but the way he's talking, it's very aggressive, but maybe it's just to appear that way. Why does Trump think American soldiers may die? My thought is that maybe a U.S. base gets hit. That's a very optimistic view, but because, you know, the other view as well, there's going to be troop movement. They only enrich to 60%. Yeah, the thing is, man, when you look at Iran and the amount of nuclear facilities they had that they were concealing and people didn't know about, I find it very hard to believe, especially considering how fast they were able to go from 3 to 60. Normally, it's extremely slow process. Enrichment, it's like it multiplies. It gets easier the higher you go, but it's very hard to go from 3 to 60. Yeah, no, I hear you. I understand it's a big operation. It's challenging. That's why I think they delayed it a week. And also they did it during the day because they had some type of intel. I wouldn't be surprised if the Ayatollah is dead. But I don't know where that leaves their government. I mean, it's just next in line, I guess. So how does that create a regime change? This was why we didn't want to have this last year. China set Iran new missiles that can hit Navy assets. Well, that'll be an escalation if they hit like an the aircraft carrier. Do you think sleeper cells will be activated? They say that about every military event in the Middle East. I mean, there's always the chance there's going to be a sleeper cell or something, but right, that's the thing, is there's always going to be a chance for sleeper cells. I don't know what the intelligence is on how active they could possibly be, but
Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Well, that makes it seem like they're going to eliminate basically all of their regime, and then he wants the Iranian people to take it over. So we'll see if that's how it ends up working, but oof. Yeah, I don't think this is not a popular thing in America. Regime change in Iran. I mean, obviously, if it's mainly facilitated by their citizens, but it's possible they use nukes, but low chance. What are you talking about? They're not going to use the nukes, bro. They're going to use nukes against Iran? There's just no way. Do you think we'll be in the Middle East long term? No, because Trump knows it's a horrible idea. It's up to the Iranians, not our. Yeah, no, that I kind of saw that with that statement as well. What I think is there's going to be these assaults that are going to be significantly weakening the regime to the point to where it's almost completely decimated, and then it's going to be up to the citizens. You don't believe Iranians want regime change? 33% of Venezuelans fled since Chavez Maduro took over 25 years ago. Only 4% of Iranians. No, 100%. It's more complicated. It is more complicated in Iran in terms of there are a lot of protests, but it's not like, they make it seem like it's a consensus. NC State, I don't know. Is NC State losing? I'll be right back.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels in international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States,
Bro had a
in
jump cut
particular,
there.
my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the...
Yeah, bro's been having some problems. He's doing these jump cuts. He's messing up lines. You're saying the Ayatollah's dead, according to Israeli news. I've seen that several times in the chat, but it wouldn't surprise me. So that would be a huge development, and maybe that would quiet everything down if that came out. You know, there's a lot of unknown right now. People think it's going to be this crazy escalation. It's what they thought after the strikes last year. Israel says the Ayatollah's body has been recovered. Yeah, but I mean, Trump is going to say whatever to try and justify it. You want to say we're not, you know, that's him saying whatever about their proxies and stuff. They mainly affect Israel, not the United States. Crypto jump started, it bounced. Yeah, crypto actually bounced even like earlier today. Yeah, I mean, but you said it was going to escalate last year, man. I think this is the problem with people. They think Iran is this superpower. They're just not. They just don't have the ability. People don't really get it. I mean, think about the piss poor response from Iran last year. You'd think they'd have a much stronger response to their nuclear program basically getting taken offline. They're just not as strong as people think. That's, I think, maybe one of the big problems. They're saying Israel sources are saying his body's been recovered. Yeah, that's the thing. You stream right during it. It's gonna get a bunch of fucking people just saying shit. They never had a proper nuclear program. So you don't agree they had 60% enrichment? Do you know how easy it is to go from 60% to 90%? See, the thing is, you're going to argue you need to know stuff. If they're at 60% enrichment, it probably takes 3-4 weeks to get to 90%. That was independently verified. I'm not saying they would use a nuke against the United States, but this stuff is just so stupid. Like, you're going to come at me? Come on. I don't know. It's being rumored that he's dead. We'll have to see. You don't really know. It wouldn't surprise me though. I mean, think about how swift they were able to get rid of Maduro. I mean, obviously it was a major strategy is to get rid of the top regime within Iran, and then the protesters, I guess, I don't know how they would coordinate it. It would probably be the Trump says, okay, Trump seems to already be backing down from it. He says it could end in 2 or 3 days. See you again in a few years if you start rebuilding. Wow. Trump is backing down, it looks like, with a statement like this. Trump is hinting at saying we're leaving. He says there's a major, maybe the attack, I guess, was on other military installations mainly. Oh, wow. Trump is already saying it's going to be ending in 2 or 3 days. Remember the fear mongering at the start of the stream? Now, I mean, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. BTC pumping. Yeah, this is some good news that's come out. so now the market's reacting if this is attacks in Dubai. Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, it was maybe there was a U.S. presence or something. I don't know. This was an attack against China. China's major proxy. Yeah, I agree. In general, Bitcoin's probably going to keep going down, but who knows? I mean, maybe it doesn't follow the same cycle. Iran retaliation strikes. Really? Have you been to Dubai? I hear Dubai is dystopian. If Ayatollah is really dead in the first hour, it's almost surreal. Well, I mean, honestly, did we expect anything less if that's true after what happened with Maduro? I mean, obviously they struck during the day for a reason. And the compounds that they hit were very strategic. So they had to have significant intel to know. I mean, let's be honest. You don't know 100%, but a real official war would, yeah, a real official, well, I mean, obviously, you know, you don't want to say it yet, but the way it's reacting, it doesn't really seem like the markets think this is going to be a prolonged crazy. I mean, if Trump is already putting out quotes that are off ramps to Axios, I mean, that tells me it's already kind of quieting. Well, not quieting down, but the rhetoric he was using in that video was concerning. Times of Israel are saying he's dead. Well, I don't think that's going to be spinning anymore. Is the regime collapsed? Well, no, it's next in command if he's dead. It'd be next in command, but again, it's like Maduro. Do they work with the person that's...
If this goes south, President Trump is risking not only his foreign policy credibility, but perhaps his whole presidential legacy in precisely the way George W. Bush did. However, if this works...
Come on, but that's just not realistic. There's no way Trump would put himself in a position where there'd be a prolonged conflict. I just can't see it.
Works. If the United States ousts the Ayatollah, who has been an enemy of the United States since the regime took power in 1979, if the United States succeeds in regime change in Iran and helps to bring about a more pro-Western and more popular regime there, this will be the greatest foreign policy accomplishment of any president in our lifetime since the end of the Cold War. So all of that to say, we don't know what's going to happen, and anyone who tells you what's going to happen tomorrow or the day after in a war is lying to you or ignorant. However, the one thing we know with certainty is the stakes could not possibly be higher for the White House.
Yeah. Unless they take an off-ramp. Yeah, I tend to agree. I think there's a lot of immediate reaction, and then it gets kind of calmed down. Yeah, I saw people saying Tom Cotton says we're going to go for war. But what is, I mean, does he have high level briefings to know what they're going to do exactly? I don't know. Canada backs the U.S. in their strikes. Yeah, this could something that could happen. Regimes collapse or its gradual weakening into irrelevance. So that's technically like something that could happen where, it could be a very short conflict because the amount that was, I mean, this could be a longer period to where it takes a little while for it to happen, but the actual strikes are not for very long. There's not a ton of investment from the United States. And it's very similar to what happened last year, to where it was only a limited involvement for 2 days because of the strikes being potentially so catastrophic against their regime. There can't be a middle ground, either pull back or go all in. Which would you choose? Well, they're not even in, though. I mean, I think the middle ground is doing what they're doing right now, which is strikes without any ground involvement. It's been confirmed he's dead. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what we expected. I mean, you're not gonna have the level of intelligence the U.S. military has, and you want to significantly weaken their regime. People could kind of see this one coming. They've been lying, saying he's alive, basically. Goal was to remove their long-range capacities and infrastructure. I think it was to just, destroy their regime. Huh. Well, where does this put Iran, you wonder, in terms of their regime? Does Trump say, well, this is good enough, now we're done, and we're going to let the Iranian people... I mean, that's what he was saying in his statement. He said the Iranian people need to do it. Thing is, with New York Times, it's like they don't actually update anything that's gossipy. $72 to 96 hours, so that's going to be the next, like, 4 days they're going to be attacking. Intended to hit Iranian leaders. Iran is cooked. Their water supply will be destroyed by the U.S. and Israel. They did say it will be a few days, not a few hours. Yeah. So maybe there'll be strikes for the next few days and then it'll just wipe out their regime. That's kind of what I'm getting from it. Yeah, I mean, they're not. Kelshi is not going to confirm it that quickly. It would have to be confirmed probably by Iran, and it's going to take a few more hours or days for that to happen, because that would be a big hit to their propaganda, of their regime. Could we be underestimating U.S. intel? Look at Venezuela. Obviously, they know what they're doing. But listen, what people are going to do is they're going to see a military action. They're going to react in a way that's likely going to be an overreaction. And obviously, to a degree, they know exactly what they want to do. And they think they have probably the intelligence to know how Iran will react to a lot of their leaders being taken out. Do you think the outcome is to scare them and to strain the regime to the point where people take over? Now, scare them in what sense? I mean, I guess you could say scare them to stop trying to make a nuclear bomb. I think we're past that. I think they're trying to go for the regime change here. There's pretty much no question if they're killing all their top leaders. Yeah, I mean, we'll see if Israeli media is correct.
Boy.
Israel is getting desperate, trying to rally people in Iran to thinking that he's dead. No, that's not really. Yeah, they can do some impressive precision airstrikes. There's no question. Yeah, but if it's a tactic, it really doesn't matter. I mean, they're going to be bombing, I think, the next 72 hours, they said. Yeah, it's just all speculation. I agree. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this live stream. I mean, there's really not a lot of updates, let's be honest. So it'll probably happen when I don't stream. They'll probably, I mean, because it's going to be developing over the next few days. But there's going to be a lot of overreaction. People saying it's this huge war. The cuckery for Israel, all that type of stuff. So I don't think it's going to be a huge war. That's not how Trump operates. But another live tonight. Well, the live tonight would maybe be at like 10 or 11 if there's big news or something. Or like 9 o'clock maybe. Later tonight. So maybe there will be actual confirmation on the Ayatollah being dead. Right. That thing, 100% I agree with you. They struck at a really peculiar time, probably because they knew he would be in a place where they could get him. And they're not going to do, they're not going to, I mean, the entire point, if you're doing a regime change, or at least a light attempt at one without ground involvement, you have to kill their regime. Or capture them. So they captured Maduro. It's not confirmed he's dead. I know, but the way the U.S. intelligence works, I'd be surprised if they missed him, honestly. Unless, for whatever reason, they weren't trying to get him, but... It's basically 100% confirmed. Iran news agencies reported. Yeah, it's funny. There's just a lot of arguing in the chat. Your shoulders are sore? My chest was really sore. I worked out. Reuters is reporting it. All right, guys. I'll be seeing you later. Like the stream down below. Thank you for watching.